Hi, it's Greg Braun, Executive Director of the Guardians of Martin County, and we're very pleased to be recording our eighth in our series of monthly podcasts, this time featuring the Martin County Forever initiative. So most people know of the Guardians as being related to growth management kinds of things, and certainly our Locks of Lucy Headwaters project. But through that, we have certainly begun to collaborate with the folks from Martin County Forever. Martin County Forever is a separate organization unto themselves, but is supported by the Guardians of Martin County. So we're pleased to have both Jim Snedeker and Merritt Matheson, the two co-chairs of the Martin County Forever initiative, here with us this morning. They're at Indian Riverside Park, which is a great location for this. Beautiful background there of the Indian River Lagoon. And so thank you both for joining us. And let's start with you, Jim, as one of the co-chairs. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of launch into the program?
Thank you, Greg. Well, my background is risk management, but during my free time, I focused a great deal on land preservation. And in that process, for example, was involved in a project or led a project in Connecticut that saved more than 1,000 acres of open space to build a trail that will be, in time, 55 miles long. Those skill sets that were learned from that morphed into my getting involved in activities in Martin County, and through the leadership of John Keller, Maggie Herchella, and others, perhaps most importantly Nat Reed, I became involved in land conservation projects here.
Great. Thanks, Jim. And we'll shift over to you, Merritt. You've been engaged with water quality kinds of projects for many years. You're former mayor and the City of Stuart commissioner, at which time or during which time you were certainly engaged in a lot of water quality kinds of things. So thanks for joining us, and tell us a little bit about your role here with Martin County Forever.
Thank you, Greg. I got involved in this in my prior life and my educational background. I studied environmental biology and was a charter fishing guide. That led me to run for city commissioner, where I was the spokesperson for City of Stuart during the LOSUM process, which is the new, recently codified Lake Okeechobee Management Plan. My entire goal in that process was ending harmful, unnatural regulatory discharges from Lake Okeechobee into our estuary. That work and work I've done with Rivers Coalition, as well as I currently serve as president of Indian River Keeper Board, morphed into meeting Jim Snedeker. I heard high regards from him from names he just mentioned, like Maggie Herchella and John Keller, and we both agreed to go down this route and do again what is necessary every few years under the guise of Martin County Forever to try and preserve and conserve land in Martin County for the benefit of future generations and the quality of life for all Martin County residents and our water quality.
Yeah, well, that's great. And certainly it's great to have you as a younger spokesperson for this initiative. I'm afraid I'm going to date myself a little bit, not only just the gray hair, but my background knowledge of the series of local referenda that have been approved by Martin County over the years. I was not in Martin County in the 1970s when the Save Our Beaches initiative was spearheaded by Martin County high school students. But after that, certainly in the Lands for You program in the late 1980s, I was one of the co-chairs of that group that worked to get that initiative, the Lands for You initiative, onto the ballot when it was indeed approved by the voters. And so that was a 20-year bond referendum. And certainly we learned that there was a lot of interest in acquiring the lands. We had a lot more properties to acquire than what we were ever able to have funds for. So that program went for a number of years. And then several years later, the Lands for Healthy Rivers opportunity came up. And once again, the voters stepped up and said, let's go ahead and move forward with that. And so I think it's as a result of that that we were able to jointly acquire the property out there at Alapata and get our foot in the door for the Everglades restoration kinds of projects. So there's a long history of Martin County supporting these things. So I applaud the time and effort that the two of you and your team have been doing over the last couple of years to really make this a reality.
Thank you. Yeah, real quick, you made an interesting point. Until going down this route, one of my favorite beaches, Tiger Shores Beach, just north of Stewart Beach, in the 80s and 90s, as a child growing up here, I loved going to that beach. And until pursuing this with Martin County Forever, I didn't realize that that beach, Tiger Shores Beach, is called that because the Martin County High School Tigers, those students at that time in the 70s, when you mentioned the Save Our Beaches program, helped generate the seed money to acquire that land and preserve Tiger Shores Beach. Now, there's so many other interesting stories of preserved special pieces of land around Martin County that have been done with initiatives like this in the past that make Martin County what it is.
And one of the very
good point. In fact, we could probably go down that path with a variety of the public lands that we all enjoy going to. You know, Bob Graham Beach, the Stewart Beach Addition, and a number of other ones further out west, I think, were primarily purchased as a result of that seed money that we were able to raise through these referendum. I think the first one in the Lands for You program was the Sea Branch State Park. And that was solely because we were able to raise the local money to offer to the state. And then I guess that takes us to where we're at right now, because I think one of the reasons that this program is timely is that we've got a number of projects in Martin County that are on the state's Florida Forever list, and despite our best efforts, they just haven't gotten into the money. So tell us a little bit about how you hope that this program will both generate funds and then that those funds can be matched by others.
One of the key things that got us involved in this was the return on the investment. That is, through this referendum, we'll raise approximately $180 million. And we expect that with matching grants, it'll be $360 million. So when you look at the numbers, on just the $180 million, we're talking buying this land for roughly $5.50 an acre. So the return on that investment is just enormous. And that was one of the things that was especially attractive to Merritt and myself as we move forward. So another element to this is that once we get this passed, and it will raise the $180 million from the referendum, we can bond for the present value of that, or approximately $144 million on day one. It's very important to understand that element because it means we can buy the land at today's dollars. And since we're talking about 45,700 acres, it's an enormous amount of land.
Make a great point, Jim, and that's what the team at Martin County Forever did in helping create this, is not only look at historical initiatives like this, and not only look at it through an environmental lens, but we took the time to look at it through an economic lens, a social lens, a personal lens, and a quality of life lens to craft the best we possibly could of way to move forward with this. And Jim did an excellent job explaining that the economic data behind this of how we got here today.
And an important part of that.
So let's take a step back and describe the project. If the referendum is approved here in November of 2024, it would involve an increase in the local sales tax that, as I understand it, would start on January 1st of 2025. Tell us a little bit about how long that program will go and sort of the big picture about the ability to use that for matching funds.
That's a great question, Greg, and taking it from the top, it'll be a 10-year long initiative. It involves roughly 45,700 acres. And in that, there's the Blue Ways area, which consists of 400 acres. Now, Blue Ways are beach access and boat ramp access areas. And it's one reason why Martin County has so many beaches is that in the past, when this type of land became available, the county would purchase it. Now, it also includes 27,000 acres in the Indian River Lagoon watershed. We estimate that it could almost double the size of the so-called C44 reservoir, which would dramatically increase the water cleansing capabilities of the C44 reservoir. In addition, there'd be 9,800 acres in the Loxalucy area, and there would also be 8,500 acres in the Palmar area. What this initiative would do would be to create a wildlife corridor and effectively a nature preserve that goes from the Palm Beach County line up to the city of Stewart. So with that 45,700 acres, we would dramatically expand the current land under management by the county. And I might add one comment here as it relates to that topic. Currently, the state wishes to try to build various facilities within the state parks. The land that we're talking about would not be subject to that because it would be owned by the county. That is, the county would own the land, control the land, full stop, and the state would not be able to get its hands on it and do what's currently being proposed.
Yeah, good point. And you mentioned the different areas, and I know on the Martin County Forever website there are maps of those different property areas. And I know you're not talking about specific parcels, but overall project areas. And certainly one of the reasons that the Guardian is supporting this initiative is we've been working for years on this Loxalucy Headwaters initiative. And it's actually the subject of one of our previous podcasts here. But the frustration that we had is, although it is called the Atlantic Ridge Ecosystem Florida Forever Project, it's been on the state's acquisition list for over 20 years. And the state has bought exactly 0 acres. And so we went to them and said, well, it's on the list. Why are we ranked so low? What can we do to get higher up on the list? And they told us 2 things. Number one, we've got to see that there's local support. Mm-hmm. And number 2, anything you can do to kind of make the cost more cost effective for the state acquisition, you need to do that. And I think that's because here in Southeast Florida, the land values are so high that we're in a competitive disadvantage with properties up in the Panhandle and other areas. So I know Atlantic Ridge Ecosystem is there, and I think aren't the Blue Ways also on the Florida Forever project list?
Yes, they are. The way grant funding from Florida Forever or other state and federal grants is ranked is an incredibly important part of this. And what we did at Martin County Forever is we picked 4 target areas, over 45,000 acres, as Jim said. And all of those target areas, any funds generated from this proposal have to purchase land in those 4 target areas. And the beauty of this is all land in those 4 target areas is grant eligible in one way or another. But to be in the running to receive those grants, you have to have, as you just mentioned, Greg, local support, local seed money. And so most of these grants take that local seed money with a 50-50 match, stretching our local dollar further to buy this conservation. And that's what's incredibly important, is all funds generated from this initiative will go to targeted areas that are already environmentally sensitive and already grant eligible. And they'll have, if there's a state grant program out there, you'll have the land owned by Martin County, which can control the land. But in pursuing and receiving a grant, it adds an extra layer of protection, whether it be federal or state, that ensures that that land is going to be conservation land in perpetuity. And that's incredibly important to everyone.
And to pick up on that, another very important element of this is how do we build in guardrails to prevent the various commissioners and others from using the money for purposes other than the spirit and intent of the referendum. And what Merritt and I have been working on, it literally took us a year and a half, were to build in guardrails as it relates to the referendum. What we did was to take the previous wording, we found some serious loopholes in it. And so we built in a 9-member Citizens Advisory Committee. Certain commissioners didn't like that, but we pushed hard and we finally got it. We also got an annual audit incorporated in the referendum and ordinance. And I might mention these are legally binding elements so that one could seek injunctive relief if the commissioners don't pursue them. In addition, we were successful in getting what are known as conservation easements included, which basically enable us, or the county, to buy the development rights to a particular piece of property. Normally it's farmland. And we built into the wording, again, part of the guardrails, the words in perpetuity and irrevocable. So the guardrails that we built in are significant, they're material, and we can enforce them through injunctive relief if we have to.
Great, and I appreciate you saying before about the corridors, the connections that this would generate, because that was one of the, I won't say downfalls, but back in the earlier land acquisition programs, it was all a willing seller program, as yours is right now. But what that meant is that those entities who offered land for sale, there'd be some property here, some property there. And so we were able to acquire those properties. But now what we're trying to do is create those linkages between those various hubs.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's if we can pull this off and we can get this passed and get people to vote for it in November, it has the opportunity to create incredible wildlife corridors, areas to help cleanse our water and really preserve the quality of life in Martin County.
Yeah, those
and I suppose not just for the environment, but these properties will be accessible to the general public for recreation as well, right?
Yes, except for the conservation easements in which the farmers will continue to farm their land. And the way they work is that they would normally receive roughly 50 cents on the dollar for a piece of property. But if they invest that in a reasonable balanced fund in 6 or 7 years, they will double the money and get what they would have received had they sold it. So there's great incentive for the farmers to be involved in this, and we're very pleased that we've worked with them as it relates to the referendum wording itself.
And one of the reasons that's in there is, as you just mentioned, Greg, to help create wildlife corridors, because this is only going to be seeking willing sellers. We want to finish those critical wildlife corridors. You take top animals, the Florida panther. That animal has a massive range and needs long wildlife corridors up and down the state of Florida, long natural corridors to really come back to its historical numbers. But again, further than just the environmental benefits and the recreational benefits, a lot of people don't even consider it. But every time you're at home and you turn on your tap in your bathroom or your shower, most people don't even consider where that water is coming from. But you're drawing off the superficial aquifer, set up with either your own pump or pumps from municipalities or from the county. And that drawdown needs to be replenished. And the way to replenish that is through your natural lands and wetlands on those natural lands that percolate down, the water percolates down through that wetland into the aquifer. And if we don't take care of that part of the system, we're being disingenuous to future generations when they go to turn on the tap at their house for their quality drinking water. So we need to factor in keeping what's going into the system clean and leverage Mother Nature's system of ensuring that we have clean drinking water for the future, well beyond the environmental benefits.
Good point, Merritt. Certainly, I recall Maggie Hercella having been a focal point in trying to get those natural lands in the Comprehensive Everglades Restoration Program. And so the Water Management District is currently focused on those reservoirs and STA where they get the biggest bang for the buck. But certainly Allapattah, the acquisition and sort of rehydration of that property has shown the value of restoring natural lands and the hydro period in those areas.
Exactly.
Point very well made, Greg. And in fact, it's quite interesting as it relates to the cost of water in Martin County. Currently, because we do get that recharge of our aquifers, our cost of water is roughly 1/2 of what it is to the south of Martin County, in part because we do have the capability to recharge those aquifers. But if we don't protect that recharging capability, the price of water could go up materially.
Yep, good point, Jim. And that takes me back to one of the goals of our Loxalucy project is to get more water into Loxahatchee River so that we don't continue to have problems with saltwater intrusion. So I'm glad you both brought that topic up. So I know you've got a lot of information on your website. Tell us how people can access that information.
So we would very much appreciate it if people would go to the website at Martin County Forever and very helpfully vote for this in November. And next, to help support us financially. Running an operation like this costs money. So if people could please go on that Martin County Forever website, top right-hand corner, you'll see a donate tab. And whatever you can give, please chip in. It will be greatly appreciated and will really help us get this over the finish line in November.
Yes, I understand you're putting together bumper stickers and other kind of swag items. And so hopefully the donations will come in that will allow you to promote the program even more. Although I have certainly seen, regardless of the linkage with the Guardians, I've seen a lot of information that you have provided. I think you've had excellent coverage in the Friends and Neighbors, Tom Campani's newsletter, and I'm sure other outlets as well. Tell us a little bit about your social media presence, if you will.
We are actively involved in Facebook, Martin County Forever. We encourage everyone to like and share those posts. We encourage everyone to go to our website or on Instagram. Please help us spread those posts onto other social media platforms like Nextdoor and stuff like that. And please reach out to us through our website and the email on our website. We have large orders of signs, bumper stickers, and banners that are going to be coming in the next week or so. We'd love to get them out to you, and we'd love you to pick up some brochures. Talk to your neighbors about this. This is the way, a tangible way that the voters in Martin County will be able to make a stand and preserve land for future generations. And we've done the hard work of creating an ordinance that once this is passed, all the funds generated have to go to acquire and conserve and restore land in 4 environmentally sensitive target areas in Martin County.
Great, thanks, Merritt. In addition to online, I understand that checks can be mailed to Martin County Forever at P.O. Box 792, Palm City, 34991. I know you've given a lot of presentations throughout the community. Are you still doing those? And if so, how would one schedule that sort of a presentation?
Great question. Thank you, Greg. If you could please go to our website, you'll see our Gmail address is martincountyforever@gmail.com. And if you send us a note as to where you'd like us to be and when, one of the members of our team will be delighted to come and do a presentation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, very good. We're starting to run short on time here. Is there anything that either I have forgotten to ask or that you think we ought to add to the conversation?
I would say it's real important. We want to mention that this is a proposal for a half-cent sales tax, but keep in mind, 37.5% of this sales tax will be paid for by non-residents. And also, very important, this does not apply to prescription medications, school supplies, or groceries. No.
Yeah, I mean, just to repeat that, highly material, 37.5% will not be paid by Martin County residents. It will not apply to school supplies, groceries, and pharmaceuticals. So just repeating that because those are highly material points. Thank you.
Yeah, we forgot to cover that earlier, so I'm glad you thought to bring that up.
Well, Greg, thank you very much.
Once this podcast is released, it will be available on the Guardian's websites. We'll certainly ask that you post it onto the Martin County Forever website as well, because we do have these monthly podcasts going. Several people have commented on how they have found our previous ones valuable about a variety of different things. We do have a couple more scheduled. The ones in the lineup are about controlling urban sprawl, another one of those key issues of interest to Martin County residents. And then also we've got plants. Plants need defenders too. So we're going to be talking with the folks from the Florida and Martin County chapter of the Native Plant Society. So with that, I thank you both, Jim Snedeker and Merritt Matheson, for joining us this morning, and we're going to wish you the best as the question is put to the voters in November.
Well, thank you to Greg and the Guardians for enabling us to spread the word on Martin County Forever.
Yes, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Greg.
Let's buy the dirt. Let's buy the land. Let's do it now and take a stand. 'Cause once it's gone forever. Let's do it now. We're in this together. More open spaces, more wildlife places. Our hometown greener, our water cleaner. More open spaces, more wildlife places.